Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Jobless MA, the highest level of cage fighting discourse on the internet. Make sure to like and subscribe. If you do, I'll have my secretary send the Addy for my next Rager.
Fellas, back with another video. So today we're going to be doing the UFC's greatest fan-given nicknames. I was inspired to do this video because I just did the UFC's greatest nicknames video. You know, those are the official nicknames you might hear like Brendan Fitzgerald say on a broadcast or something, or, you know, you'll find it in the Wikipedia pages. And there was a guy who commented, bro, you're forgetting about Shamil the Blob Gaziev. And that's a great example of a fan-given nickname. Something that just kind of came out of the UFC chat rooms and, you know, YouTube shorts and Instagram reels and these things, but it's not his official nickname. So that inspired me. Yeah, let's go forward. Let's do a video of all the fan-given nicknames. An important distinction we have to make is that the fan-given nicknames are different than mythical MMA fighters, right? Because those are also fan-given nicknames. But the difference is that mythical MMA fighters only exist, you know, one moment in time, right? Like, you know, Uberim, the Uber version of Alistair Overeem only existed around the Brock Lesnar fight when he was on steroids and he was super jacked, you know, similar with TRT Vitor or TRT Tor, they might call him. That was really in the Michael Bisping and the Luke Rockhold fights. By the end of their career, those guys weren't those mythical fighters anymore. So that's a whole different video that I could probably do in the future. But a lot of other people have done those videos. So, I mean, I'm probably not going to do those for a while. I'm really trying to be super original at this point. This fan-given nickname video, I can't really think of me seeing this from other people. And then finally, the last thing I wanted to note is, guys, I realized doing this video, Bedtime MMA has been doing a crazy job of being the originator of some of these nicknames. A lot of the fan-given nicknames within the past 1 to 2 years that are going to be on this list definitely can be attributed to Bedtime MMA. So shout out to him. You guys know I love that guy. Him and Guru are like my two favorite. They're the only two YouTube channels that I watch that talk about MMA at the end of the day, other than, you know, I watch a lot of interview channels, right? I like the Jackson Pod. I like Love and War with Dominic Cruz. Might watch the Garry here and there if he has a fighter on, but I digress. Anyways, let's get to it. Best fan-given nicknames. Starting off, we've got two nicknames here that really do, I really do think that they were both kind of given by Bedtime MMA. The first one is Tai Taco Bell Tuivasa. So obviously we all know Tai Tuivasa is very, very tubby and he struggles to make weight. I believe he was probably photographed with some Taco Bell, maybe on an Instagram story or something. And yeah, this one I think for sure was Bedtime MMA. He started calling him Tai Taco Bell Tuivasa, and it's something I'm seeing all over the internet now. Tai Tuivasa just lost last week in a Taliesin Teixeira, so it's pretty topical at the moment. The other one is Roman Dolidze, Roman the Caveman Dolidze. So this one is a fan-given nickname. I don't know if it started from Bedtime, but I would say one of the first times I heard it was from Bedtime for sure. It makes a lot of sense. I mean, Roman Dolidze looks like a caveman at the end of the day. You know, he looks like a caveman. When he knocks people out, he's screaming over them, you know, kind of like a caveman after, you know, killing a saber-toothed tiger with a fucking rock. It's very, very similar. Up next, we've got Deshaun Strickland. So this one came from a very famous photo shoot that Sean Strickland had after training with his training partner, Chris Curtis, where Sean Strickland was posted up. He was wearing the Dewey, you know, he was wearing the Silky. He had a fucking blunt in his mouth, you know, a Black and Mild or a Swisher or something, and he was holding a bottle of Henny as well. So I have this flag on my wall, actually, that says America's Champ, and it's a picture of Sean Strickland with the blunt and the Henny. So it's very, very famous. Deshaun Strickland, you know, something that I've seen in my own comment section. I've seen this when we did when I did UFC's greatest black fighters, there was a guy who left a comment, was like, bro, you left out Deshaun Strickland. That's facts. Anyways, up next in the fan-given nicknames, we've got Street Judas Jorge Masvidal. So there's two of these for Jorge Masvidal. Now, the fan-given nickname is probably Street Jesus because, you know, he's baptizing people in the street and stuff, and he would knock people out on these videos. And then Colby Covington started converting that into Street Judas. I'd say Street Judas has stuck around more. That's a nickname that a lot of fans call Jorge Masvidal to this day. I call him that too. I don't call him Jorge Gamebred Masvidal. I call him Street Judas. I mean, if you're a Colby fan, you're probably the one who's still keeping this on, you know, in lasting memory. So that's a pretty good one. Jorge Masvidal is rumored to perhaps be coming back on the White House card to fight like Conor McGregor. I don't think it's going to happen. I think Conor's probably going to fight Chandler on the White House if he fights anyone. But, you know, I wouldn't be against watching Jorge come back. I was never really the biggest fan of the guy. But, you know, if they give him a good fight at 170 or, you know, 185, hey, fuck it. Might as well. It's good television, you know. Up next, we've got, hey, I'm going to run a little test here, okay? If I say the name Magomed Zhaynukov, did any of you guys know who I'm talking about? Okay, I didn't even know this guy's name when I was starting the video. Guys, this is John Pork. We all know John Pork. He's done numbers in the YouTube space recently. He was a guy who recently won on the Contender Series. Very, very good Muay Thai fighter. He looks a lot like the internet meme personality guy John Pork, not to be confused with the internet meme personality guy Marvin Beak. I heard Marvin Beak is in the Epstein files, though. Hey, caw. Let's not talk about it, though. Marvin's my fucking boy. But yeah, this guy's nickname is actually Chanko, right? So that's part of the reason people call him John Pork, because Chanko sounds like John Pork. He also just looks a lot like John Pork, guys. And this has really only grown in fame because in an interview recently, he was like, please don't call me that. Please don't call me that. And as you guys know, hey, if you tell the MMA fan base not to do something, guess what they're going to do? Exactly that fucking thing. Because we're a bunch of rowdy young men for the most part. So, and then Islam was like, yo, he doesn't like that. But Islam was giggling about it. So yeah, Chanko, John Pork. John Pork is a great one at the moment. Completely fan-given nickname. I'm not sure who came up with it. Maybe it was like Tony Has Died or someone like that. But who knows? It's a great one, though. And yeah, let me know down below. Did you guys know who Magomed Zhaynukov is? Because I had never heard his name in my life until I researched this video. I immediately went to Google and I was like, what is John Pork's real name? I didn't even know. So if there was tiers in this video, this would be S tier because I didn't even know the guy's real fucking name, which is crazy. Up next, kind of an underground pick here. So Ryan Spann, his nickname is Superman, right? But a lot of people call him Ryan Tomato Can Spann. And I think this is kind of for one of three reasons. One, because it rhymes with Superman and Spann, so it makes sense. Two is because he's kind of a tomato can himself. He's not the best fighter. And three is because he only wins against tomato cans, excluding the Dominic Reyes win. So this is one that I say quite frequently when I'm talking about Ryan Spann. I think it's kind of funny. Ryan Tomato Can Spann. Anyways, on to the next one. This one I mentioned in the intro, guys. Yet another, if there were tiers, this would be an S tier. It's Shamil the Blob Gaziev. Yeah, I think it totally works. He's this really, really big, pudgy guy. People make all these memes about, like, you may not like it, but this is what, the perfect male physique looks like. And it's a picture of Shamil Gaziev. Shamil Gaziev's actually gotten a ton of hype just off of having this nickname and this meme created. Very similar to John Pork. John Pork is coming into the UFC very, very hyped up just because everyone knows him from all these stupid memes of, his face photoshopped over John Pork. So I really do like that one, Shamil the Blob Gaziev. I have a good friend of mine. I mentioned him in a video before, a Jewish guy. His name is, we're going to call him Austin, okay? Austin loves Shamil the Blob Gaziev. When he's on, we're exchanging tons of texts about it. It's a whole thing between us. Up next, once again, guys, I think Bedtime MMA might have been, the catalyst of this one. Magomed Ankalaev, Big Ank. So people started calling him Big Ank, on MMA social media. And then there was a time before, like, the first Alex fight maybe, where he signed one of his tweets at the bottom and he said, like, sincerely Big Ank or some shit like that. And everyone's like, okay, he's taking the nickname on. I really do like this one. I call him Big Ank all the time because saying Magomed Ankalaev is kind of, long. Big Ank is really, really funny. I like it. But guys, there's rumors that after getting knocked out by Alex in this rematch, guys, he might have been reverted to Little Ank. I'm still going to call him Big Ank though, okay? I still like this guy. I like how he fights. I like how he blends the martial arts. I am a southpaw myself too, so I really, really like watching southpaws. And this guy's about the same size as me at the end of the day. So he's a little bit more ripped than me, but we're about the same size, which I really, really like from him. Up next, not really a nickname, but kind of a quote that, has taken on a life of its own. Legendary Polish power. I'm of course talking about Jan Blachowicz. He referred to himself, with his knockouts as, I have legendary Polish power, something like that, right? And a lot of people might call him that. I've heard people just say, who do you think would win? Legendary Polish power versus Yuri. People have said something like that to me before. So it's a name that I definitely have to include, right? These fan-given nicknames, more than anything else, they might not have been given by the fans originally, but they are unofficial nicknames that the fans call the fighters for one reason or another, either because they invented it or because the fighter said it or another fighter said it, right? So legendary Polish power, I like this one. The Polish power might not be legendary, guys, because you think about the biggest knockout wins that he's had, right? So he knocked out Dominic Reyes, guys. Dominic Reyes has been knocked out by everyone. He knocked out Luke Rockhold. Luke Rockhold's been knocked out by everyone. And he knocked out Corey Anderson. Guess what? Corey Anderson's been knocked out by everyone. So maybe the Polish power isn't legendary, but he coined it and it's going to live on forever in fame. Up next, this one, I don't know the origins of it, but it's been around for a good amount of time. I'd say at least 5 years, probably. I'm talking about Bobby Knuckles or Robert Whittaker. So yeah, this one is a classic. Bobby is an abbreviation for Robert. I think that this one was probably invented by Australian fans somewhere. It just sounds like something they'd say, Bobby Knuckles instead of Robert the Reaper Whittaker, which the Reaper is a good nickname for sure, but Bobby Knuckles, quite a good one, fan nickname. I don't ever really call him the Reaper. I'll call him Bobby Knuckles. Up next, we've got Marvin Vettori. So his real nickname is the Italian Dream, but a lot of people call him the Orc, or they just call him an Orc. If you guys don't know what an Orc is, it's like, basically think of like Shrek. It's like this giant green kind of weird goblin creature, and they're usually really, really aggressive, not that smart, and they have quite a lot of anger, and they kind of just brute force their way through things. It's also been popularized by the Elder Scrolls. I wanted to call it Elden Scrolls. I'm thinking of Elden Ring. The Elder Scrolls game series. So like Oblivion and Skyrim, right? Orcs are these big guys. They wear like really heavy armor and they swing two-handed hammers and they just like tear people apart. So they call Marvin Vettori the Orc because he seems very, very angry. He doesn't seem very, very smart. I was saying he's the type of guy, bro, where like if his TV is not working, bro, like in a fit of rage, he'd punch the fucking TV. He'd be like, yeah, he's one of those guys. He'd smash the toaster on his head if it's not fucking working. Up next, we've got one. I think this was probably given by Paulo Costa. Would be Gyno Sanya. Talking about Israel Adesanya when he showed up before the Costa fight with that big gyno on his tits. I'm not really going to explain. Gyno is basically like a side effect of steroid usage, guys. You get like kind of weird juice-filled sacs on one of your nipples, and it looks just fucking weird. So he showed up with this, before I believe it was the Costa fight, and Costa started calling him Gyno Sanya. Correct me if I'm wrong on the history there, but it's something that I still hear people say about to this day. Now, you could argue that Gyno Sanya is a mythical fighter, right? Some people might argue he's a mythical fighter. To me, he isn't, though, just because he's never had official steroid, rulings levied down against him. So to this day, I still might call him Gyno Sanya here and there because he's never been caught cheating. So who knows if the steroid era ever existed or if it ever ended, for that matter. Up next, we've got Joe Pyfer. So his official nickname is Body Bags. The nickname that everyone says about him is anything about body cams. Okay, Joe body cam off Pyfer. Body cam still raw materials in the Congo. What's that guy? Cassius Thundercock, that meme of the state trooper with the giga chin. Yeah. Joe Pyfer's like that. So I think this meme either came from, the body bags thing, or it came from the fact that he looks like a police officer who would like turn his body cam off like a state trooper and just like slime your ass out and like stomp on you and stomp your ass out. Bedtime might have had a role in cultivating that one. I'm not quite sure on the history of that, but that's quite a new one. Okay. And Joe Pyfer has really leaned into it. We saw this AI image he tweeted of him arresting Israel Adesanya recently. Yes, Joe Body Cam Pyfer. Up next, this one I believe was created kind of by the broader MMA community as a whole. I'm talking about Belal Remember the Decision Muhammad. So we know his nickname is Remember the Name. He doesn't really win a lot of, finishes or aggressive fights. So someone started calling him Remember the Decision. And I remember at one of these press conferences, it was like a couple years ago, someone asked him about, how does it feel to be called that and shit. People were kind of laughing and stuff. I like this one. I still see this, on Instagram comment sections in particular. Up next, we've got Ian Garry. So Ian Garry's official nickname is Ian the Future Garry, but a lot of us call him, myself included, Ian the Cuck Garry. We all know he's in some situation with his wife where she has a history of dating rich athletes to try to, take their money. And then also him and his wife are living in a house with the wife's ex-husband too. So Ian Garry could be a cuck. He could be sitting on a chair in the corner. It's a pretty common nickname for Ian Garry, and especially anyone who doesn't like him, which is kind of like the majority of the fan base. Up next, Carlos Prates. So his official nickname is Carlos the Nightmare Prates, but a lot of the fans have taken to calling him a CP. I'm not going to tell you what CP is abbreviated for. You probably shouldn't Google it either. It's not good. But he wears a blinged out, iced out, like Rick Ross type of 4PF CP chain on his neck. It's just become a way to refer to Carlos Prates as. It's the majority of time, that's what I call him when I'm in the group chat with my boys. I would say this one's probably a fan-given nickname itself. Up next, this one's more simple. A lot of the other ones have jokes to it. A lot of the other ones come from insults from other fighters, something clever. So for Charles Oliveira, the fan nickname is Charlie Olives. Pretty simple. It just sounds like his name. I don't know where it came from. It's been around for a good amount of time. His real nickname is obviously Dubronx, which a lot of people love, but it's not in English. So Charlie Olives, or just calling him Olives. I do that quite a bit myself. Up next, we've got a kind of a deep cut here. So Josh Emmett, his real nickname, I went over it in my nicknames video. I gave it a D tier, is CCO. I don't know what the fuck it means, but some people call him the Fighting Falmer. Falmer. If any of you guys have played the Skyrim games, Falmers are like these little pale goblin guys. They hang out in these, darkly tinted, like kind of bluish areas underground. And yeah, they're basically just like goblins. They get angry. They try to kill you with their little daggers and swords and shit. Guys, Josh Emmett looks quite a bit like a Falmer. And there was a point where someone asked Robert Whittaker, who's like, he's a pretty adamant, I don't know if, adamant's not a good word, pretty avid Skyrim player. And they're like, hey, have you heard of people calling Josh Emmett the fighting Falmer? And he's like from Skyrim. And then he's like, the reporter's like, yeah. He's like, that's fucking hilarious. He kind of looks like a Falmer, which he does, I hope he would maybe take that one on, but Josh Emmett doesn't seem to me to be like a gamer, but guys, he looks quite a bit like a Falmer. Up next, we've got Bogdan Guskov, the Hitman. So there was a video game series called Hitman where you play different levels and you have to, shoot some people or, cut down a fucking piano off of a roof and have it fall on someone or something creative like that. You got to kill people. And Bogdan Guskov looks quite a bit like the protagonist from that game with his pale kind of bald head. So at a recent press conference before his fight against Jan Blachowicz, he was dressed up completely as the Hitman, wearing the famous suit with the gloves. I like this one quite a lot. I hope he takes this on as his new nickname, Bogdan the Hitman Guskov. I really, really like it. Up next, one of the least known ones I've seen, I've only seen this a handful of times. I think I get quite a chuckle out of it myself, is Rob Times New Roman font. So obviously, if any of you guys have ever written a paper before, usually they want you to write it in a Times New Roman font on, double spacing, 12, what's even the word for that? 12 is the size on the font, right? Yeah, so Rob Times New Roman font. I'd like to see this one get used more, but, he's close to retirement, so we'll probably never see it, but I have heard that one, here and there. Up next, a pretty good one, a pretty recent one too. So Cody Garbrandt, his official nickname is No Love. So the fans, as Cody Garbrandt started to get knocked out more and more as we've gotten later into his career, they've made a play on that and they call him Cody No Chin, which is something that I've said, a couple times for sure myself. Yeah, that's kind of how a lot of these come about is fans will maybe make a play on the fighter's nickname, kind of like with the Ryan Superman to Ryan Tomato Can Spann thing. They'll make a little play on their nickname that kind of fits them better. And Cody No Chin fits him better. Obviously, he's been getting knocked out quite a bit, by TJ and fucking Kai Car France and all these things. Up next, our final two, or really, okay, let's have a conversation here. So Conor McGregor, right? I was going to say Motivated McGregor, but Motivated McGregor is a mythical fighter, so he doesn't really count for this video. But what I will say is Mystic Mac. Mystic Mac definitely, I think, still exists. Anytime Conor McGregor predicts anything on Instagram or he says anything, he'll talk about politics or something, people will call him Mystic Mac. This came from before one of his fights. He was like, I'm going to KO him in the first round. He said, I'm going to KO some guy in the first round, and then he did it. And then after the fight, he's like, I told you all I was going to KO him in the first round. That's why they call me Mystic Mac, because I predict these things. So yeah, Mystic Mac is probably the best fan-given nickname for Conor McGregor. He's got some other ones too, but they're all kind of mythical fighter names. I think of a lot of those other mythical fighter names off the top of my head. I would think of like, what is it? Fourth round, Yoel Romero. I would think of Sea Level, Cain Velasquez. Fuck. I'd have to sit down and think more about it though. But yeah, those won't be on this video. It's something that a lot of MMA YouTubers have done other than me. Anyways, that's going to be the video, guys. Let me know what you think. Let me know if I'm missing any too. This was a video where I had to think about quite a lot. I was just going through the UFC roster, kind of saying names out loud, over here on my couch. I'm like, what type of memes have I heard from these guys? So who knows? Who knows? But yeah, I think we got most of them down in this video. Anyways, this has been Jobless MMA, boys. I really, really appreciate you guys watching. Peace.